All right. Good evening, everyone. It is Friday night. It is Friday night fellowship. I hope everyone is doing well this evening. We'll wait a couple minutes, see who pops in. But it's good to be here once again. It is 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's a wonderful standard time. See how things are going. It's a sunshiny day today, and weather is starting to look a little bit better out there. A little cooler. It's not as hot as it was, but I'll still take the temperature any time of the week, any time of the week, any day of the week. Um, let's see, what are we going to talk about tonight? I don't know. I got a couple things on my mind, I guess, but we'll wait for a few people to pop in if anyone pops in at all. But it's a beautiful, lovely day today. I've got some grass has gotten mowed out there, and that's good. That's looking good. So I'm hoping everyone out there is doing well. Like I said, we're going to wait a few minutes and see how things go. I should have probably played more music. I don't know who I'm going to have popping in tonight. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'm definitely grateful to be here this evening. You know, in many places one can be. I get to be here, so that's a beautiful thing, and you can't beat that. You have the ability to be somewhere. You can be on the YouTube and so forth and so on. So it's nice to be on the YouTube when you have a chance. A lot of people don't have the time to do it, and it's not their fault, but it's great to be here. It's wonderful to be here. The opportunity to be able to talk to people. I think sometimes I don't realize how important this can be. It's an outlet for some who are in different locations out there that they can't see things. But I do want to talk about being grateful this evening. I think I'm going to talk about, I think, James chapter 1. I'm not sure if I want to do that or not. But as each day goes by in the week, as you get older, you start to look at these things and you start to appreciate them a lot more than you once did. And sometimes we overlook the simple things or the simplicity of life, and we get bogged down and complicated and so many different things out there that capture our attention and sidetrack us into all different directions in life, and we lose focus of what matters, what's most important, why we do what we do, why do we take care of loved ones that we do, why are all these things there. I think what happens is we kind of mess with our own mind by creating all these different reasons for things. And there's no need for that. We want to make it's when I watch people talk about the Bible and discuss the Bible online, and I see people talking, and I say to myself, why are you people making it so complicated? It's not this hard. I think some things that you have to do a little research on, sure, and correlate to other scriptures, absolutely. And one who knows the scriptures that can guide you better, absolutely. But I think things that are simple, we want it to be more difficult. And then I ask myself, are you truly saved? Are you born again? Are you trusting in the Lord? Is your faith there? Because you seem to be concentrating on what you can do, what your works can do. And it gets a little worrisome in my head. I'm like, guys, and I think when you get on that hamster wheel of this whole, oh, my works, my works, my works, oh, what do I do? What do we do? I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to be better. I got to be better. And we try so hard that at times we end up failing, or we set our expectations so high that we're not going to reach them. And then we are upset with ourselves when we don't reach them. And I might have made this analogy before, but when I used to coach a long time ago, you strive for that perfection, and hopefully you get to that strive for that perfection, and hopefully you reach it. Someone's handing me water. Thank you, sir. All right. So when we focus on these things, my son just gave me my water that I needed. I'm always drinking water, keep my lips dry, so to speak. We tend to focus on these things and get ourselves all excited and all wrapped up and all concerned, and we end up making these enemies and these strifes that don't need to be there. And we're fighting amongst one another, and it is mind-boggling how people get themselves caught up in this, and they just can't seem to get off that hamster wheel. And that's a sad situation, that they can't get off that hamster wheel, which is unfortunate. So I was gonna. Oh, what did I do? Nah, I put my Bible somewhere else. I was just using it for another thing, but now I've misplaced it. I wonder what I did with it. I was just using it. But anyways, probably got caught up in all the other Bibles over there. I'm trying to figure out what I did with the one I was going to read from. But we have to stop worrying about these things. We get wrapped up. You got to calm down. You got to not worry about it. Good evening, brother. Hope I didn't take last week's fellowship in a different direction than was intended. Discernment. And I'm sorry if that happened. I have no idea how we got off topic. I get off topic all by myself sometimes. So sometimes I don't need help for other people. I get off on topic myself. Again, what I said a long time ago, brother, and thanks for being here this evening, is I said a long time ago that I let things organically happen sometimes, and wherever it goes, it goes. I don't worry too much about things. I just focus on what I'm focusing on and let people decide as it goes. Not really dictate what's going on, but I feel sometimes people have something that's on their mind, and maybe I can answer it, maybe I can't. But sometimes people just need to get something off their chest, and unfortunately, a lot of outlets don't allow that, or that when they do allow it, it creates some weird argument, debate situation, which I do not understand. I was watching something earlier, and I probably won't ever watch that channel again, most likely. I don't know. But there was somebody on there, and I was just very confused at how they didn't understand something so simplistic. And to me, it was rather strange that something that's so simple can be taken and twisted. But no, you didn't take it in a different direction. Wherever it goes, it goes. I'm a firm believer of letting a conversation have its direction. There's an ebb and a flow, and sometimes you come back to the same thing. Some things lean to that. So I'm guessing you saw a couple of comments on that. I just was baffled. It was so easy, and I forgot. I think that what were they talking about? And I tuned in late to that program, so I don't know who that guy is or anything like that. But I almost thought he was agnostic at first, because the way he was talking, that he didn't believe the word of God. But I'm like, but that particular station seems to be very, and I'd hate to agree with another guy that made a comment on there, and I won't watch his channel either, but it seems to be becoming somewhat ecumenical, and I have to agree with that. Even people I don't agree with or don't like the way they do things, they will make a good point. And I think he's a King James Bible believing guy, but then he's got some sort of offshoot Calvinist guy on there. I don't know what he is. And there was that other guy, and talking about righteousness, and I just blown away. But what happens is, that's another example that there's some anger going on, but then they pretend, hey, if we get to heaven, we'll love each other and pat each other on the back. And I'm very baffled by that approach, that you can be so angry with someone and then suddenly tell them, yeah, but we're brothers and sisters. If you mean by brothers and sisters in real life, yes, we get into arguments with your siblings and so forth, absolutely. But when it comes to the brethren, that really shouldn't happen. And again, it just keeps happening over and over again. I am astounded when I see it. It's as if everybody wants to argue. Once in a while, I think to myself, maybe I'll join just to point this out, but then I don't. And I just want to go, hey, why is it always an argument or dispute? Because it continuously happens. When you see these channels, it just continuously happens. I have not seen it not happen. And I'm only one guy. Brother Calvin, you watch some of these programs, these podcasts or these YouTube channels, and you can tell me if you've seen it not go bad. If you've seen it in a situation where they haven't gone off the rails. because it starts off friendly enough. It starts off, hey, all right, good stuff. We're brothers in Christ, and we're gonna just talk about a couple of things, and then it becomes heated. It becomes very emotional, and not a good emotion. The anger starts to come out. So it's unfortunate. And again, there are people in the world out there, in the secular world, watching us Christians and how we behave. How do our King James Bible believing Christians behave? And these are our representatives. Some of the channels they use all types of Bible. I think, and that's another thing that bothers me. They use 9 Bibles and they try to pick and choose what to prove their point. And because one doesn't prove their point, so they go to another text that fits better for their point, and they draw from all. And because they want their cake and eat too, and they want a buffet table, that they need all the Bible versions to fit what they believe. And that's unfortunate. But I hope that someone's going to come along out there somewhere who's going to create some situation, channel where there's actual discussion and not attacks. Or I don't mind the fact if you're talking to someone who is in the opposite. And you're like, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's see where you're at, blah, blah, blah. And you probably won't have them on again because it'll be just fighting and arguing. And then you just walk away and go in separate directions. It is what it is. Because most people who go to these type of channels or want to go on there to have these conversations are not on there to have a civil dialogue. They will go in with the guise of having a civil dialogue, but it does not end up there. And it's getting tiresome and wearisome, concerning to see all these folks calling themselves brothers and then attack each other. That is not brotherly love in any kind of way. I'm sorry. Now, we're not talking about rebuking and exhortation afterwards. We're not. That's not even in play here. It's my way or the highway. But problem is, it's the Bible's way of the highway. It's God's way. That's it. There's no discussion to be had after that. I think, or I think you're insinuating. No, there's no insinuating. The Bible doesn't say, is not always vague on things. It's pretty to the point most of the time. Sometimes we don't understand it. And at first, when I started reading the Bible years ago, I thought to myself, why can't I understand some of this stuff? Because I wasn't allowing myself to take out my own personal interpretation of what I wanted to read. We have to remove ourselves from what we want to hear and actually, hear what is being said through the words. That's where I believe I'm at. I'm trying to find out where I put my Bible because there was a scripture, and I think it's James 6, and I don't know what I did. It's like you would think I could easily pull up a Bible, thousands of Bibles here. I don't know what I did the other one. I'm always moving things around. I got Bibles. Obviously, I got plenty of Bibles. I'm just looking for my King James Bible, and I don't know what I did with that particular King James Bible. I got everything under the sun. When I'm doing research, I got like 10,000 of them around. It's an NIV. I wonder what year that is. I don't know what year that is. 19, probably. I wonder if it's an 84. Let's find out if this is an 84 as I'm holding. Let's see. This NIV is... Hey, it is a 1984. There you go. 1984 NIV. What do I not have? Let me tell you. Your RSV. Let's see. The Living Bible, because that's an accurate Bible. You know what? I feel pretty bad here. I don't know what I did with that particular King James Bible. So I'm going to get up for a second and find me another King James Bible. But I have to go out of view. Hold on one second. Here's a King James Bible. I think it's James 6. And I could be wrong. I feel like I'm going to end up being wrong. Let's go to James 6 if I'm, you know what? I have it written down somewhere. I think I have it in my document file. I'm sorry that I'm doing this live right now. I should have been prepared and ready for it. And you know what? It is 6:4, but it's in 1 Timothy. I apologize. 1 Timothy 6:4. And this, I just found a business card in an old, but I just grabbed this King James off the shelf, and I've never actually opened up this King James. It is a Thompson's. It is a Thompson's. This is interesting. But I just found a business card. I just found a business card in an old Bible. Your experience in this with me for the first time. I don't know if you can see that. Faith Assembly of God. It's not even mine. I don't know. Pennsylvania. This is definitely not mine. I've never been to an Assembly of God in Pennsylvania. That's for sure. Well, there you go. As you know, I get old books. I did not text it today, and I was going to, but I wanted to see how they were doing, and hopefully the healing up was Chris. I know his surgery was a couple days ago. 1 Timothy 6:4. Man, it's taking me forever to get there. I should have been prepared. He is proud, knowing nothing, but doting about questions and strifes of words, whereof cometh envy, strife, railings, evil surmising. There you go. And that's what I was thinking about today, watching these things, Brother Calvin. It's just, there's this, I think they envy each other. There's constant fighting, which is the strife part of it. The railing against each other, just like the scripture says. And I'm absolutely baffled how nobody points this out. I feel like everybody gets involved with the arguing and so forth. Let me shut that down, get out of my vision here. And they join in. Isn't that weird how that happens? They just join in this whole thing. It's as if they want to argue. And I wonder, when born-again Christians are acting like this, or supposedly born-again Christians, and the outside world, the secular world, who we want to bring to the Lord, we want to convert them, we want to be part of that, we want so much for them to have this joy and love and all this in their life, and yet they see the representation that exists out there, and they look at it and go, I want no part of that. All they do is fight, argue, debate, and they say what they have the right to say is, how are they different? They're not different. And that's my problem. They are not acting different from the world. This is not a simple case of, well, sometimes, I fall and the flesh gets to me. No, these men are not just in the moment, all of a sudden they fell. No, they are consistently part of this. And this is why. This is one of the many reasons why you have people who say, no, thank you. I'm happy in my life without the debate, without the argument. I thought you people promised love and peace, and, well, not the peace of 1969 peace or anything like that. Well, here's a interesting thing. I'm gonna end up making a video about this. Just talking about Brother Calvin. If you're still watching, talk about going off topic for a second. The Jesus fish. We call it the Jesus fish. You know, a little fish there that's on the back of the vehicles out there, and a lot of different churches. I think a lot of people don't understand the timeline of that fish, or the real timeline of what the Jesus fish, not the fish itself from previous of how it was in history, but how it is now. That fish, when that Jesus fish, the symbol, the shirt, all that came about, when it became an actual thing in Pentecostalism, which that's where most people, it's Pentecostalism. That's where it came from. That's the origination is Pentecostalism, is that Jesus fish. But that comes out of the Jesus movement. The Jesus movement was really what pushed that. They were the Christian version of the counterculture movement of the late 60s, early 70s. That's also in Zodiac stuff and all that kind of stuff that had the fish and the Pisces. that also arrived at the exact same time as the late 60s, early 70s. So you have those two combined. I'm going to do a video with a Dragnet episode. And I know you're thinking to yourself, Dragnet, what? So there's a 1967 or 68 Dragnet episode. And in the background, I see the fish, the Jesus fish on the wall of this hippie, psychedelic, drugged out place that they're raiding or whatever. And that is perfect because that is exactly where it is. New Ageism. That fish was New Ageism. That's all it was. Modern New Age. The fish symbol has been around for a long time, but its use today and its popularity and when it got pushed in the modern sense was in the early 70s, late 60s through the Jesus movement out of the counterculture. Because you remember, these guys are hippies. They're part of that whole movement, and then they came out of that movement, and they still are holding on to some of those things and going into the 70s. So just thought that was an interesting tidbit. But strife, there's always this strife. That's this anger and this. It just continues to be. There's no point in having all this argument all the time. Yeah. Chuck Smith was a big part of the Jesus movement. Also started the Calvary Church franchise. I love how you say franchise because it's a franchise. It's kind of like when I call the Catholic Church the Roman Catholic organization. Not much of a church. But Chuck Smith with that Lonnie Brisbane or Brisbane. Oh, Brisbane. I was thinking Australia. Brisbane was the guy there. I think he died of AIDS and being a homosexual, which they were fine with. But Lonnie Frisbee, a lot of people don't understand this. He wasn't just out of the Jesus movement, culture movement. He was brought in by other guys like, who are they called? Frisbee. I'm sorry, Frisbee. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a long time since I've looked that guy up and researched him researched that whole thing. I was reminded of it, actually. I forgot all about it until that movie a couple of years ago. I didn't go see the movie. It was that guy there, Kelsey Grammer, the guy who played in that TV show Cheers and not Cheers, Frasier. So, but Frisbee actually came out of another organization who got involved with that. It's a real interesting mess. It wasn't sporadic, and it wasn't organic. It was all planned. It was, you have to go back to a lot of these things in the 50s and guys. I mean, it always goes back to a lot of other men who have created, kind of like when I've talked about before, everybody says Azusa Street. That's the start of Pentecostalism. Nah, it goes back further than that when you go to Frank Sanford and Dowie and so forth. But anyways, I don't want to go off topic again. I did that last time. But that's when that Jesus fish really came about, is in that movement. But everything was planned in those movements. Guys like Derek Prince and people like him out of another organization who it's always just a big lie. Now, Chuck Smith, I watched something, an interview of him a while back, a few years ago. I don't know. I didn't care. I don't really care for that guy. Who's the other guy there that he's got the big mega church now? The bald guy there. He's a big Steve McQueen fan, which I find is interesting. Good evening. I work today. Okay, I work today too. Why are you so late, brother Jorge? No, I'm just kidding. You must have had a big day today, a long day. A long day today for you, huh, buddy? But I can't. Yeah, that's right. If you get out of work late and then you got to go get the kids, yeah, that's a good point. But we were covering 1 Timothy 6:4 for about a minute or two. That was it. That's all you really missed. That we're just talking about other stuff. We're just organically talking. But now I'm trying to think of. I lost my train of thought, but Chuck Smith was, I think, John MacArthur liked Chuck Smith at one point in time and then did not like Chuck Smith at another point in time. It's kind of funny. It's kind of weird how that works. In fact, John MacArthur went to the same school as Jim Wilbur. Jim Wilbur or Wilmer, I forget his name. He split from Chuck Smith. He was at a different Calvary Chapel. So when Lonnie Frisbee left that organization, he was invited over to that organization, John Wilmer or something like that. But John Wilmer and John MacArthur went to the same college. I think it was actually called Azusa, which is kind of funny, actually. I don't think there's any relation, but Greg Laurie. Thank you. That's the guy. He is such a dangerous, heretical man, in my opinion. He was a big Steve McQueen fan. I saw something on YouTube once that he did some documentary about Steve McQueen. Greg Laurie actually came out of the Jesus movement. If I'm correct, Greg Laurie was a cartoonist at some point in time, or a newspaper person, or an editor, or something or other, something along them lines. You know, modern also comes out of that Calvary Chapel movement. If I'm not mistaken, it's Mike Winger, the guy who has been doing all the videos on Benny Hinn and stuff like that. He's a very against KJV people, or onlyist, I guess he says. But as we all know, if you read a King James Bible, you're a King James onlyist no matter what. Even if you study other Bibles, which I don't. Well, I use other Bibles to do it. I am a King James onlyist. I said this before. I became one before I even knew what it was. I didn't even know there's a movement called King James onlyist. Never heard of it in my entire life. I just knew. I remember being taught when I was younger that people who read the King James, those King James people are just wacky. That's all. I guess, yeah, some are. If you go after the weird ones, yeah, or the ones that are probably not legit. But yeah, Greg Laurie came out. I think Mike Winger came out of that moment. Calvary Chapel had a lot of things going on. But again, a lot of that stuff has its roots in other things, and I think people don't. I think we only go as far back as a week when we do research in this world today. It's very weird how that happens. Some people have a very short attention span to history. Again, that's why we repeat the mistakes that we do. We don't learn from history at all. And there's a lot there to study and research. But Brother Jorge, it's a book tour time, I guess you could say. I was going through one of my wooden boxes. I have a wooden box with a deer on it, a wood burning or wood carving that one of my sons bought. I think my son Alex got me that one day. And I was looking for a first copy edition of Up From Slavery, but it wasn't in there. But however, I found some other interesting things. I don't know if anybody's ready for that. But remember what I was saying before, I love to find, older books or original ones that that way, they didn't reprint them like they do today. Like everything's reprinted. Well, I got to be honest with you. I didn't know I had this at all. So I get things and I forget I even have them. And this is the Greek New Testament. Well, however, it is the Greek New Testament, and it is the 16th edition of the Nestle. I don't know if you can read that. Can you read that at all? I don't know if that's going to come in clear or not. Probably not. I don't have one of those fancy 4K cameras. But the Greek New Testament, edited with critical apparatus by Dr. Eberhard Nessel. There is nobody else here. And from my understanding, the 16th edition is in 1935. So this book is from 1935. And I could have got this at Goodwill, Salvation Army, flea market. I have no idea where I purchased it. But it's interesting that I do have it. So I eventually want to get the new Nessels, well, now it would be called Nestle Allen, and see if it matches up anyway in here. And I think we all know that it doesn't. And there are places that they revise certain areas. So I got 2 books tonight. So that is the 1935 Nestles, the Greek New Testament from 1935. And I didn't even know I had it. So that'll be fun to go through that at some point. And then we got one more book where we won't be here all night. This is going to be fun to go into because I can also pick things that people will say, oh, that's not true. That isn't true. Well, this is a complete concordance to the writings of Mary Baker Eddy. See how worn out that binding is. And this is from 1933, I think it said. Hold on, some of these pages are a little ripped. If I can find it. Yeah, there it is. I don't know if you can read. I don't want to break. Yeah, so I'm not going to. I don't know. Yes, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's going to come in blurry, guys. I'm sorry. 1933. And the importance of that and why I get them, it's not to look smart or anything like that. I'm always understanding that things can be re-edited and they come out in a reprint and original things were taken out. Well, in the 1930s, they didn't think to do that. They didn't think to take things out. That wasn't a big thing. They weren't concerned about that. Not many people were worried about those things or had to fight about that or have debates about that. So I think it's pretty important to have those things, especially if you're a guy like me who wants to point these things out or go through them. Not everybody needs these things, but I think it can come in quite handy in a conversation or anything like that. So that's my tonight's little 2-book tour thing. I got of course, there's a lot of other goodies in there and Dead Sea Scroll stuff, some Catholic paraphernalia or something like that. I think there might be a Polish one in there somewhere, but if you want, I'll check. But I want to go back, like I was saying earlier. We were talking about that show, or I would say show, podcast, show, vlog, YouTube channel. I don't know what to call these things. I don't even know what to call my own. But we were talking about that earlier. And I'm trying not to call out names. I mean, but obviously, Brother Calvin, you were watching it. It's disappointing to see what appears to be a godly man and to allow that stuff to happen and to allow people to spread things that aren't there. I don't know. I think these channels are slowly becoming all debate channels and all argumentative channels. It seems to be all fellowship, but it's a lot of people posting scriptures in there, and I'm one to do the same thing, or I'll post a definition once in a while. But I'm always, and I only made like 2 comments, and then I stopped and like, nope, just don't even get involved with this nonsense, because they all seem to be geared to argument. And a couple of people come on here and wanting to have an argument and found that there wasn't going to be one. It's not going to happen, because I would like it to stay, to a sense, a conversation among the brethren of talking about different things, not getting into high-heated debates. That's why it's called Friday Night Fellowship. I came in very late too, but from what I did see here, it was confusion. Yeah, I came in late too because I came out to the computer to get ready for this evening, and because I did subscribe to that channel, which I don't know. I'm debating about unsubscribing to it because it's just silliness. It's just arguing. It's always arguing. So I don't know, but what drew me to watch is King James. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch King James, but I don't know that I know that he's not a fan of Ruckman, which is fine. He's got that right, but I don't. It's amazing how Peter Ruckman can still hold so much sway over people, or have them hate him so much, which is absolutely astounding to me. I will say one thing about Ruckman. I thought he was a very staunch believer or defender of the King James Bible. Right or wrong, he stood fast. But a lot of people out there now, they say they stand fast and then they back off. Or then they stand fast, but they seem to be full of hatred. And I don't understand that. Like my father has a lot of hate in him. I do not know how a man can call himself a born again Christian and have so much hatred in their heart, or so much meanness and so much anger and so much hostility. Um, I mean, we get angry. It happens. We all fight this sometimes, but it's not something that we wake up angry. We breathe and live all day angry. We eat breakfast angry, eat supper angry, go to sleep angry and mean and ornery. That's not a fruit. It's not a fruit. It's not a good fruit. It's a rotten apple is what that is. And that's what I see when I see these. And I know I kick these channels without naming them. I kick these channels time to time, but it's nothing but hate. And again, I try not to, but he's mentioned on more than one occasion he's a former Jesuit. I thought he said he was a former Calvinist. That's what I thought. I have no idea. I thought he mentioned that to somebody. That Calvinist guy he has on. Jesuit, 3 years training. Yeah. Then he had that other guy he got into an argument with who's out of Canada, also out of Canada. Okay. That too. Okay. All right. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with that. I'm like, something doesn't make sense. And I think part of me wants to go on there and civilly confront the situation, but the other part of me like, nah, just let it be. But my problem is, because I stand fast to the King James Bible, it bothers me sometimes when I see men that are King James Bible and then are very either wishy-washy or they're very angry, and I'm like, that's not a representation, in my opinion, of the simple everyday man of God reading the King James. But I can't just. That's weird. I just say it, everyday man of God. That used to be my old YouTube channel name, Everyday Man of God Ministries. That's weird. I don't know why I just said that. Huh. Anyways, but just the everyday man of God, just who we are out there, and that's not who we are. So I think these people, could they be plants? Yeah. I'm somewhat of a conspiracy theorist, but there are sometimes I go, come on, guys. That's okay. You're stretching too far for a conspiracy. But sometimes I believe there might be something to it. And I believe, as I watch things, that there may be men who are being put out there on the YouTube channel that could very well be infiltrators. And I believe that it's possible. And it's unfortunate. And there are some channels out there that I think are creating a wide array of divisions. And it's a very bad thing. Then there are just people out there who just think as soon as they became a Christian that they're automatically a preacher or a teacher or whatever. It's like, that's unfortunate as well. But well, there you go. But I'm seeing less and less of fellowship of brethren than I am of fellowship of haters going at attacking one another, which is unfortunate. I'm not saying one has to live in a bubble or live in an echo chamber. I'm just saying we've got to get back to a brotherly love among the brethren instead of all the hatred and the division and the nitpicking and going after one another. None of us are perfect. That's darn true. But we can find each other and say, hey, listen, I think you might have interpreted that wrong, and I'd like to talk to you about it. Sweet, let's talk about it. But that's not happening. I'm not seeing that happening. Now, do I watch every single channel up? No, no. There are men who put themselves up as experts in the field. Here, okay. Standing for Truth. I think that's a destructive channel, and absolutely destructive. And people say, some will say, "Oh, I was edified." I've watched this channel, and I have seen so much anger, hostility, and hate on that channel. It's amazing. It's these. Some of these guys could stab you with an actual knife and say, "I love you, brother." That's how warped and messed up. That's the time we're living in, though. That is the time we're living in. It is absolutely mind-boggling. And this Dr. Giorgio there, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I don't want to mess it up, or I probably messed up his first name. When I first saw him, I was like, yeah, okay, maybe. And then as I've watched a few more, and I'm like, I don't know. And yet I'm still drawn to watch to find out what is going on. And so I question myself, do I walk away from these channels and just ignore them? Or do I go on them? You know, some I maybe. Like Dr. Giorgio, maybe. Standing for Truth, I would never go on that in a heartbeat. And like I said before, I sent one guy that was on there a what do we call him, an inbox message telling him that I thought he did a good job of being calm, but I told him, I says, I don't agree with anything you stand for, and he lets himself get angry as well. I do not understand. And I asked him to explain to me why he would bother with this stuff. You know, his point was like, well, someone has to tell them the truth. A debate isn't about telling someone the truth. Nobody cares. They came to tell you the truth. And then now it's an argument. Nobody's listening. Debates are a prize fight. And all these people come in the comments. These are the guys who show up and throw their money down, and they start watching. They're just like, all right, my guy's going to beat that guy up. My guy's going to kick that guy's butt. I've actually seen that, by the way, in a comment, and said that, oh, man, he kicked his. And I'm like, so this is a Christian. It was during an after show about 3 years ago that I finally saw Donnie's and other true colors cursing and demeaning those they did. Yeah. I don't think that guy's saved at all. He might have some biblical knowledge, but this is what it comes down to. And I've talked about this before. These men are not who you think you are, or they are behind the scenes. They're just not. They've done a good job at getting to where they are. They've fooled people long enough, and it's all about them, and about the super chats. Apparently, you can pay like $20, $50, $10, $8, $20, $30 to try to entrap somebody in a question. And the super chats, they get what do you call primary choice. I'm trying to think of the right word there, but they select your comments because you paid to play. Sounds like the Roman Catholic Church was back in the day, don't they? Pay to play, man. Like politics, pay to play. You pay me the money, I'll let you come in and get involved. Get out of town. That's crazy. That's priority. Thank you. Priority. I don't know what I was thinking. That's it's insanity. When I first saw it, and the reason I'll tell you why I originally wanted to see it. I think, and again, Brother Jorge, you can correct me. Either I saw that the AVBTM there was going to be on there, and I know who he is because he's made comments on my channel before, and then I've talked to him briefly in a couple of comments. I've made comments on his channel, but he originally found me and then said something, and then but he comes from that Brian Denlinger tree, but he was going to be on a debate, and I thought that was very weird because he comes from that tree of like I said, that Brian Denlinger guy who says someone was telling me once that he is totally against debating, and here one of his one of his proteges is on a debate channel. And so I decided to watch it. And the first thing I noticed, and Brother Jorge will remember this, that I made this comment to him. First thing I noticed is he had all them little superhero gods right behind him on the video, which I got thrown off right away by that. I'm like, right away, to me, you've lost all credibility. And I think the world looks at you as the same way. But you guys are into the whole thing, you know, just live like the world lives, no big deal. Because I'm saved. I'm saved. I'm once saved all. I'm holding the wrong book. Yikes. Let me wipe my hands off. That was the Mary Betty Eddie. I'm saved, so therefore I can do anything. Get out of here. Really puts into perspective that a corrupt tree cannot produce good fruit. Yeah, and I think you were telling me a while back those two had a falling out and stuff like that. I don't know that whole history, but yeah, they had a falling out and whatever. But it seems like that's what happens. I've had a couple of people. I had one young lady argue with me about the Christmas lights. Well, there's green and red around the throne, so therefore Christmas lights are a wonderful, beautiful thing. And I got to tell you right now, Brother Calvin, I don't know how you feel about that, and I'm not going to hate you any one way or the other, but no, it doesn't represent the Christmas lights at Christmas time. It's a weird jump to make because Christmas did not exist at that. So how are you? I don't know. It's things like that I'm like, it's astounding. You know, I just am. Yeah. Oh yeah. Then recently you see that he got a kudos from that person. Yes. Who said good job, right? I guess, didn't he make a comment or something? I haven't watched any of it, but you know. Yikes. Deletes those old videos. What do you mean? Who deletes the old videos? That AVBTM? I can never get his channel right. AVTBM. Guy Tim. He deletes his old videos? Or that guy Brian does. But a lot of people come out of that just as strange. I'm glad I never was part of that whole thing. You know, there's a lot of, and you see him pop up here and there in places, just weird. Just real weird. He deleted his old videos. Interesting. I recently put a video on one of my playlists about why Christmas is wrong. I don't know if, you know, I'm not trying to make you watch any of my old stuff, but at Christmas time, where I think I got a lot of people angry, which is fine, about Christmas and all of that. And I don't even touch upon Jeremiah. I don't get into Jeremiah 11. Was it 11, 10? Jeremiah, the whole tree. I actually talk about, and I believe I did a small series on that. I'd have to, hold on. Let me, if you don't mind, you know, putting up with me here, I'll have to go into my YouTube channel. But, yeah, I did some Christmas videos then talking about it. I did a lot of stuff on that. Because I'm astounded. Because the thing people say is, as long as you use it for God, just look. It's a great time to witness. Anytime is a great time to witness, and then they'll witness by handing out the gospel tracts. Jesus is the reason for the season. Well, first of all, Jesus is the reason for all the seasons, but you know, let's not get into that part. I don't know that I was gonna put it into playlists. I don't know if I ever did put it into a playlist or not. The Christmas videos. Yeah. Oh, the Christmas studies. Apparently I must have. But sometimes I put, well, I don't know what this is. I don't know. I'm looking at my own YouTube channel. I can't figure out what I'm doing. Also put one in by Brian Moonen and about David Barton and Glenn Beck. Now, this I'll say about Glenn Beck. Very knowledgeable about some crazy stuff that happens in the world. David Barton, at first myself, I'm like, very patriotic guy. But then the way he talks, I feel like there's a salesman inside of them, a car salesman. I'm trying to connect this playlist, but it's not letting me play. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I talked about Christmas Liberty. In fact, that's actually I wrote a book about that. I don't have it out here. I'll be darned. One of the books I wrote, and Calvin, you might not know this. I don't know. Brother Jorge bought this book a while back. I would have sent it to him for free, but it's got a different cover now. But it's called King David and the Forgotten Kings. I wrote this a while back. Well, I put this, compiled this small type of reference book together. I was looking for my other books. I thought I had a couple of them out here. I apparently don't have them. But the other one is the Truth About Liberty. Was it Truth About Christmas Liberty? No, it's just a Truth About Liberty. I wrote a book on that. And the heresy of Christian isolationism. But yeah, I got Christmas Liberty in Romans 14:5, Christmas Jeremiah 10. But Jeremiah 9:26 is what I focus on, because I think understanding never heard of it. Southern accent added, LOL. Never heard of what? I don't know what you're talking about. Never heard of my book? Probably you've never heard of my book, yeah. It's not exactly a big-time seller, my book, but, I talked about paradise trees. I wonder if I can pull this. Hold on, let's see if I... Yeah. It's a book I wrote. Try to find the other ones up here. I thought I had a couple of them out here, but I don't usually have them out to be looking around. Maybe I got them somewhere else, but I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how to show the screen here. Share screen. I'm awful at doing this. All right, screen 2. We'll share it. Oh, there you go. There's sharing it. So, yeah, I did this video here. I want to be supportive, but definitely highly appreciate the fact that you wanted to send it to me. I did. I would have sent it to you for free, but it wasn't about making money. So I did this video here, Christian Liberty in Romans, Christmas Jeremiah 10, but Jeremiah 9:26 I focused on. Why this is in my playlist twice, I don't know. Paradise trees, mystery plays, all of that stuff. Christmas in the American churches. Christmas is an appeal to the flesh. Christmas, Christian liberty, pagan festivals, and the Feast of Adam and Eve. So you can see here, you can see my stuff of likes and views and dislikes and so forth. I'm showing you behind the scenes. I'm going to move that. There you go. But yeah, I got into a lot of that, and I started working on a book about the whole Christmas thing. I started working on that. I have other, but anyways, but I wrote those 2 books. I can't even think of my own titles, but The Heresy of Christian Isolationism and The Truth About Liberty. So The Truth About Christian Liberty. That's what I wrote. I'm like, I can't remember my own books. I never promote them. I don't do anything with them. I wrote them. I got them in a couple of bookstores around here. They're online. Unfortunately, I did put them on Amazon, which I didn't want to do, but they are there. So they are on Amazon as well. But I told you, Brother Calvin, I'm saying I'll get myself off topic. I don't need anybody else to put me off topic. I'll do it myself. But a lot of people use these things as excuses, and, and they'll say it's okay for Christmas and Easter, but then they'll say, not on Halloween. We won't go out on Halloween. I'm like, so that's the holiday you choose not to. Okay. And this whole judge one day above another. If you watch briefly my Christian Liberty one, you'll get why that's a silly argument. It's not what 14.5 is about. But we're talking about arguing and stuff like that. A lot of these guys, and that's what they do. They get in all these arguments, and it's just crazy stuff. And that Dr. Giorgio Antonius is there, but I learned about Christmas being pagan in 2011 and haven't celebrated since. It's strange that Denlinger still does and makes the excuse that it's tradition. my guess is he probably teaches against tradition too. And he's not the only one. A lot of guys do that. Or they'll walk that line, because here's the thing. They know guys like him and that approach, they know they're going to alienate a lot of their subscribers and followers and viewers. So therefore, they don't want to say anything too controversial, even though they'll say, oh, they're not afraid of anything, but they know the Christmas is a big one. Everybody knows that hits the heart of a lot of Christians, a lot of Baptists, a lot of Catholics, a lot of Methodists, a lot of it is pretty much the one holiday that every single denomination on the same page. Not on any other. Easter, not on the same page of how that's celebrated. Halloween or Good Friday or whatever. New Year's Eve, all of it. They differ. Birthdays, anniversaries, Valentine's Day, which, why would you celebrate that? They'll differ. But Christmas. And so they don't want to alienate that crowd. Well, I did, and not because I'm like, oh, yay, I stood up and I caused strife. The truth is the truth. What's funny is my wife actually has a lot more knowledge on the history of paganism than I do. She knows a lot of that. She studied a lot of that stuff. Very smart woman. But she knows a lot of those stuff, that type of field. So she was incredibly knowledgeable. But there are things that she doesn't have a clue about that I know more about. And that's not being better than. That's the beauty of a helpmate. She's like, oh, man. And I'm like, oh, babe, I did not know that. I'm like, wow, why didn't I see that? Thanks for pointing that out to me. And I'll put it in some notes aside, We haven't worked together as much as we did at one point, but she gets busy, obviously. Yeah, don't we? They just want to make it, oh, baby Jesus, And another thing I'll say, and amen, by the way, is this whole theory of like, oh, well, it's a great time to get people into the churches, and we can get them saved and all this other stuff. And I don't know about anybody here. I grew up in a church, but I very rarely do you ever see any of those people, the aunts, the uncles, the friends, the family that came to see little Susie and Joey in the little play and everything. I'm not trying to offend little Susie or little Joey. I don't even know a little Joey or a little Susie, but not to offend them, because these kids don't know any better, and and it's cute. Don't get me wrong. It's very cute to see them in those little plays. They do a good job. They're trying their best. Oh, this is how we'll get them. They never come back. They're just there because, it's family, we go, You know what they're saying when they get there? They go, hey, listen, we have to go make an appearance. We just go, but I don't like church. I know, but let's just pretend it's for our little niece and we love her and we'll go and she'll be happy and then we leave and we don't have to worry. It's only one night. We don't have to go back. That's how it goes. That's the reality of it. It feels much easier not to do Christmas. Doing Christmas is too much. Get the tree, hang the lights, buy stuff, wrap them up. It's much easier to eliminate all that. Yeah, I have a 13-year-old and 10-year-old, and I can tell you neither one of them could care less about Christmas. They could care less about any of that. And they know the truth about Christmas. So we stopped that trend with our two youngest boys. The trend is done. And I think, and I believe it's a psychological thing that a lot of people believe, and they see how they want to, oh, I remember when I was little and this and that. And I'm sure it was a wonderful experience when you're little. Hey, listen, I had Christmas when I was little too. It's like, oh, I remember the presents. It was so much fun. And then you're like, oh, I want my children to have that. But what you unwittingly do, and I don't think a lot of people do it on purpose, they unwittingly keep perpetuating that danger, that sin, that satanic background. That's what it is. That's what it is. I remember this lady I worked with. I used to run the docks down at Salvation Army. Well, another guy was supposed to run the docks, did a terrible job, so I ran it. And lady, she was a part-timer. And I remember telling her, I says, and everybody knows this now, I says, if you rearrange Santa, you get Satan, right? And now everybody talks about it now. I did this was years ago. I did this. And she just stood there. She goes, I never knew that. And she just she was dumbfounded by that whole idea. I was like, I do exchange a few gifts with family, but in no way celebrate the traditional Christmas fare. Now, I don't know if I can offer anything here, but this is what we do. And this is what our family does because we're completely separate. So we, at the end of September, which is this month actually, at the end of September, we will talk about the birth of Christ. Emmanuel, Jesus, the Son of God, the only begotten. That's when we talk about him because he was born at the end of September, early October, roughly therein, calendar days, whatever. That's when we do it. We personally actually have an annual family day that we have a week after July 4th. So the weekend after July 4th is when we have our family day that we just get gifts and hang out, and we have a cookout. We have some hamburgers and cheeseburgers. And I'll tell you, the addition to this is fireworks are 50% off after July 4th, So you get a couple of fireworks and you get to shoot off a couple of fireworks in the sky. It's a great time for the family. We all have a great time and hang out. Because spending time with your family should not be the same as celebrating Jesus' birth. Those two things should be completely different. And there's a reason why we are told to celebrate the birth as we are the resurrection. And I think that's the important thing here. So that's what we do as a family. We have the annual family day, not a reunion. Some might think, it's a reunion. I'm like, not really. That's not a reunion. We don't have all of our family members come around and stuff like that. We don't do that. I personally don't have a lot of communication with any of my family members anymore. My brother I'll talk to every once in a while. I think the last time I spoke to him was a couple of months ago. That's probably the only one I talked to. My little sister, it's weird to say little at my age because she's younger than I am, but we had our Are you celebrating it's supposed to be Guy Fawkes Day. I am not. I do know that I haven't done a lot of research on the festival, but apparently, they do have a day over there. They actually have a day and they celebrate. It's a pretty good story. If nobody knows, somebody, when they set out the bomb to blow up the palace there. Not Hampton Court. Was that Hampton Court? I don't think that was Hampton Court. Hampton Court is in where they got together in 1604 to talk about, creating the 1611. But that's what we do as a family. I don't, and that's, like I said, that's my kids and my wife, and now obviously my father, who doesn't participate in anything. He just watches terrible TV programs and just sits there and stares at them. It's a sad, sad situation. Half in paranoia, half in dementia, half in Parkinson's. That's a lot of halves, I guess. You can't have that many halves. I guess I should have broke them up into quarters. But so I mean, and that's the problem is a lot of people want to talk big and bad about all these things, and they're hardcore King James Bible believers, and then you put them to the test, and no, you're not. You are making us look bad. Us everyday men of God, I should just change my channel back to that. You're making us look bad with your compromise. And that's what you are doing, is you're compromising. Was it? I think it was the House of Lords. You could absolutely be right. Wasn't one? I think one of them was being warned by one of the guys that was part of the plot. One of the congressmen. I don't even know what they called them then. They might have called them bishops. I don't know what they called them. I can't remember. But it's too much compromise. There's a lot of ecumenicalism activity within the King James realms on the YouTube these days. I'm just going to say that. I think there's a lot of it there. I think, and there's a lot of guys who act tough, but don't have to actually be in the world and have to have any confrontation because they can run and hide. They don't have to risk losing their jobs, losing family or anything like that because they don't have family, they don't have jobs, things like that. So there's nothing yet. They're not risking anything to stand for the truth. They can stand for the truth and run to the mountains or run to the woods or wherever they live. They can run. They don't have to deal with it. And that's what's even worse is they make compromises and they don't even have to deal with things to make a compromise in. Some of us out there, we have to stand for something, right? And we don't compromise. Well, I hope we don't. I hope most of us don't. And that got me into trouble with the Christmas stuff. And I'm going to get in trouble again because when I do finish the book on that, I'll get pushed back on that. I probably won't sell any, but that's okay. It was in a cellar beneath the House of Lords in the Palace of Westminster, where he was arrested on November 5th, 1605, for his role in the failed gunpowder plot to blow up King James I and Parliament. Now, wasn't it that they rented a place next door or something like that? Or they rented a place and they were going to dig underground and it got flooded out or something of that nature. And then they had to, or something along the lines. And I don't know. I think there were a couple of snitches too that told on them, I guess, in the crew, but that happens. What are you gonna do? But yeah, so I don't think I'll watch. Well, I don't watch Standing for Truth, Liberty, or Trend for Truth, Liberty, whatever it's called. Standing for Truth, something. Is it? I hope it's not called Ministries because yikes. What's the other one there? Dr. Giorgio and Antonios. I'm gonna say Antonios. I think there's something wrong there. According to Google. I used to have a King James book in here, the history of the King James or something like that. I don't know. I think it's in the house actually. It's in the main house. Yeah, I don't see it. I wish I had my other books that I could show you, but I do not have them. So it is what it is. Let's see. I'm going to type something up real quick. But it's getting really nasty in the realm of those people that are out there supposedly defending, the King James Bible. And then I don't know that they are. They are, but with words and not action. I think that's the thing that bothers me a little bit. Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to pull up my share screen again. I'm going to put up the share screen again. These are the books I was talking about. Oops, I just removed it. Good for me. Wait a, there we go. Yeah. Where'd I go? Where'd I go? Okay, hold on. Yikes. But I felt they had to be written, so I wrote them, and that's all there is to it. Didn't write them to make $1 million, that's for sure. Just felt that they need to be written. But I'll be writing some more as I go along. Like I said, the Christmas one. I was working on some Noah's Ark stuff or Noah's Kids. I'm always working on something. As Jorge was saying, do you ever stop? I'm like, no, my brain keeps on going. It's just so much stuff, and I am blessed with an amazing wife. I'm not saying it because she might be watching. I'm blessed with an amazing wife because she's behind me 100% all the time, and she puts up with a lot of stuff that she has to in the house. And I honestly, without a good woman and a good biblically founded Christian woman, this is not all possible. It's just not. Matthew 15:8, King James Bible. This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart. So yeah, absolutely. That really does. You know, we hear that quote a lot, and sometimes you'll hear from those who are actually the perpetrators of this verse. They're the ones that are who we're talking about, and they just talk, and then they have just a lot of stuff going on there. And when you see any place that has all the bad talking and insulting and attacking, and I know that we're kind of attacking a couple of people, and I think the reason I'm attacking them, not them personally, is I'm just disappointed in the fact that there are men out there holding the book that I love, the King James Bible, and really desecrating it by their actions, not their words, not always their words. Some are by their words, but their behavior. And I know that other people, because when you're a born again Christian, listen, when you're a Bible believing Christian, people are looking for anything. They are. Forget about the brethren. You know, they'll false brethren will look for things as well, but there are people who are looking for anything to point out. See, and the problem is you give them the fodder of which they want. You give them a smorgasbord to choose from, and then they attack everyone because of you, and that's a problem. And you know, and unfortunately, some people have a large followings that probably shouldn't, but they do. It's the way it is, you know. And now, speaking of paganism, oh, I wouldn't say attacking, but warning and exposing others. Yeah, and I try to draw a fine line here. I try to not, and that's another thing that bothers me. People just talk and they don't try to not step over too far over the line and go over a border. But a lot of people feel like they're exposing people, and people want it's almost becoming a YouTube racket. Everybody's exposing everybody. There's a channel. There's a million of them exposing someone or something, and that, and there's no, and they'll call themselves a ministry, but there's no ministry happening. It's just mostly bad talking, exposing, and attacking, and that's what I try not to do. And if you go back through all my videos, not that you have that kind of time, but if you go back, I don't attack. I very seldom will say a name. I've been on here for 7 years maybe, and I've not really attacked a lot of people. I'm very careful about that. I think far too many people get into it, but again, I'm a person who's like, if somebody asks me about someone, I will give you my personal opinion, but I'm not going to go out of my way pretty much to attack people just to attack people because I may not like their ministry or I disagree with their approach. But I think some ministries you don't have to attack. I don't understand the whole Mike Winger on Benny Hinn. We all know Benny Hinn is who he is. Like, oh, we're exposing Kenneth Copeland. Didn't even know he had to be exposed. Listen, people know who he is. People who follow him know who he is, and they don't mind. They like it. They're fine with it. They're not disillusioned. They're not confused. They're not. This is what they want. They're fine with it. They know what they're getting. Jesse Duplantis, give me a break. Creflo Dollar. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but come on. Do you really need to expose them? I mean, they open their mouth, they've exposed themselves. Joel Osteen's and Rick Ward. Well, I'll tell you the interesting story about Rick Warren. There's a church in England, so he's a little dangerous, that are using his theology in their teaching in the Anglican church over there, or one of the Anglican churches over in England, which is fascinating. I only know that because we have a sister in Christ, and we found this out. We're like, interesting. So, but a lot of these, so I don't know why we have like Justin Peters like exposing or like exposing NAR and stuff like that. I get it's funny how they exposed NAR way after the fact. Some of us kind of told you about them way before they became popular, but nobody, of course, listens. But that's Creflo. Give me $1 TL. Yeah. I think he's one of those preachers who threw the money on the stage and they dance on the money or something like that. My goodness. But, I mean, I don't know why this video is exposed. I don't know. You're not exposing anything. Paula White and the rest, they're popular among the people who want that. They're popular among the mainstream pagan Christians, and the pagan Christians know what they're getting. 99% of them. I'm sure a couple got fooled and were like, whoa, I thought Joyce Meyer was something different, and they probably left. But no, they like it. It's fine with them. It fits them. No big deal. So exposing them does really absolutely nothing for 99%. Maybe a few people might get the hint, but you're out pretty quick. My problem is with guys who do, and I think it's I'm more concerned about the King James community, because that's where I see infiltration, because that's the most dangerous out there. Is the hey brother, good to see you, brother David. And that's where we get the problem, is the infiltration of these groups that come into the King James realm, and that is an infiltration. And there's a reason, and I tell my boys the same thing. There's a reason there is an attack on the King James Bible. There's no attack on the NIV onlyist. There's no attack on them. They say, "Oh, the King James people." No, the King James people don't. I've never met a King James onlyist in my entire life. So I don't know what that was until I got older and found out there's a movement. There were not King James people showing up at my NIV church telling us anything. I mean, that didn't exist. But the NIV people warned you of the King James people. Ain't that funny? ESV people warn you about the King James people. They're all the same. Remember how I said every denomination is on the same page in celebrating Christmas? On the same page. Identical pages, yet same thing with the attack on the King James Bible. They're all on the same page of attacking the one Bible. Why? It also reminds me of all the nations who are going to one day come together and they attack Israel. They're against that one nation. So the majority are against that minority of Israel. The majority of the Bible folks out there, the new versions, some of the old versions, and all these people, the majority are attacking the minority of the King James Bible believing crowd. The majority of people who love Christmas attack the minority who don't celebrate Christmas because they know it's wrong. Ain't that funny how that works? It's not the minority attacking them. And we're always on the defensive, but we're never on the offensive. I think that should tell you a lot. You know what? I'm going to text him live right now. How's Chris's back? I wanted to text him today, but I got busy at work, and so I forgot to do it. But I want to see. I gave him it was on the 3rd. I didn't want to text him the very day after if he's in recovery and stuff like that on surgery. So there are some Christians like, I don't have a cell phone. By the way, I think most Christians who say that may not be accurate, but let's text him right now live. We're going to text Chris right now. Hold on. I'm going to tell him we're all in the live stream and we're texting. We are all on the live stream, wondering how. Oh, you ever do that? You actually talk out loud when you're texting somebody? You're doing. All right. All right. Text is sent. We just sent them the text. We'll see what happens. I've been praying for Chris's back since Steve mentioned it back last week. Yeah. And that we are praying for him. Yeah. I should have added that. Sorry. Let me add that in my text with him. Let's see. Maybe he might show up. You never know. All right. Brother Calvin said, we are praying. Oops. Yeah, we are praying for you. All right. Like an old man texting over here. All right. All right. There you go. Well, I hope he gets that text, and I hope that helps him. I hope that sometimes healing is a tough process, but sometimes when you feel like somebody is out there praying for you, and I was about to say has your back. What a poor choice of word, has your back, but it's got your back. You know what I mean? It's there for you, and I think it helps some people. Gives them a positive aspect. Just if you know that people are out there praying for you and then that are rooting for you to heal and get better, I really believe that can have a positive influence. I'm not trying to be Mr. Tony Roberts over here, or not Tony Roberts, Tony Robbins. No, Tony Roberts. Is it Tony Roberts? Tony Robbins. Whatever. But it helps, and I think, and that's why the brethren is important. I think that's why the brothers and sisters in Christ are important. It's and that's why it bothers me with all this infighting, this anger, and this hostility, and everybody wants to be right. And I'm going to show you the real truth. I'm a better Bible believer than you are. I'm like, what is going on? It's just really a sad situation because we're all at different levels. I believe that some of us are milk in areas and meat in others, and others are meat and we're meat in some area, vice versa. Then there are some of us who are just a lot of milk and not very much meat. Some of us have a lot more meat. Milk. We're all at a different spot. We're all at a different spot along the path. And sometimes the ones who think they have it all figured out forget to look behind them to see if the others are anywhere near. And they go about it because they're all worried about them, how much knowledge that they can get going this way, that by the time they even think to look back, gone. Gone. Maybe they fell off the path. They got lost on the path. They went that way and that way. Because you should have been trying to help. Guide them. Share a little bit of your own knowledge of what you might have. And you didn't. Because we all have something we can share that we can help somebody with. And we fail that. I fail it. We all do at times. But that's the problem. As they get so far ahead, they really don't care about back here. They just don't. And it's sad, disheartening. Well, we have channels that are more concerned about likes and views and subscriptions of followers and super chats and all these things about what they can get out of it, and yet we have forgotten the very basic element of fellowship. Basic fellowship is not always a complete. We're going to dissect Romans 1, and we're going to dissect Romans 1. Verse 1, and we're going to spend. Hey, it's Brother Christopher. All right, we all want to know how you're doing, brother. I'm talking on behalf of everybody here. We're all hoping you're doing okay today. I didn't bother you for a day and a half, 2 days here, so we're hoping you're doing all right. There you go. That's awesome. Brother David, hey, Chris. It's nice to hear from you, Chris. But very often we get these. We just forget about other people, and we forget as I was saying before, the very simple, basic, elementary, just fellowship. You don't have to dissect Romans 1:1 all the time. You don't have to dissect James 3 all the time. It doesn't mean we won't talk about James 3. We talk about scriptures all the time. We were just talking about Matthew in here. We're talking about 1 Timothy chapter 6 earlier. It's about fellowship with the brethren. Okay, let me put this up here. Today has been the worst so far. Ah, man. All right. But that's to be expected. All right. Hey, we're going to continue to pray for you, buddy. I promise. Brother, we'll keep on praying for you. Well, I promise I will. I think I can promise for Jorge and Brother Christopher and Brother David, but I'm not going to speak for them. But, yeah, we'll definitely keep praying for you, brother. Now, if Brother David and Brother Calvin may not know this, but Brother Chris gave me a guitar, an older guitar, a Fender. It's just an acoustic Fender, and it's right here. And I always play this. I'm always playing it, because I don't, I think it's important. So I always have it in here in my pod shed. And I got my capo there. What do you get? The 3rd, 6th, 7th fret. I always have this with me. I was playing it the other night. I still play it. See, it's in a little bit in tune. You probably barely hear it, but Anyways, so, and it means the world to me. It does. When Brother Chris gave me this guitar, I still have it. I'm not an expert. I'm not a great guitar player at all. That's for sure. Look at Brother Calvin. I'll be praying for you, brother. I think it was in tune when he gave it to you. Yeah, I know it was in tune when he gave it to me. I'm aware of that. But it's out here in the pod shed. I just had it tuned. The other night I had it in tune. I actually have to change out the strings on this. Anyways, and I'm not a very good guitar player. Clearly, you could tell. But I think we forget what's behind things, that people are willing to give you something, and I'm very grateful for it. And I offered to give them. I think I was going to offer them like $50 or $100. I can't remember what I was offering. But he wouldn't take the money, and so, but I constantly have it there. It's always there. I have to tune it sometimes back up, but again, we have forgotten the basic element, as I said before, as being brothers and sisters. So, and some of us may never meet. Brother Calvin and Brother David, I may never not meet. I don't know. Although I probably could, because I think they're both kind of near me. Well, one Brother Calvin I know is kind of. He's one state away. I have to go through Alabama. And Brother David's over there on the East Coast, Southeast. I keep saying North Carolina, but I could be wrong. That's what's in my head. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry if North Carolina is wrong, but that's what's in my brain. And Brother Jorge, I've obviously met years ago up north. But I think it's important, and I've said this before, if anybody's ever in there. Who I do miss is Brother Clifton, and I have not seen him in a long time, and I've got to reach out to him. I've actually met him as well. I've always said, if you're in the area, and if I can, I will. Oh, South Carolina. I'm sorry, buddy. South Carolina, because my brother lives in South Carolina. So yeah. But again, this is, like I said, this is what I've tried to explain to people about fellowship for a long time. This is fellowship that we're having. It doesn't always have to be a huge Bible study. Doesn't mean we don't have a Bible study. Fellowship is whatever happens when brothers get together, the brethren get together, brothers and sisters get together, whatever. Maybe this is what it's about. But far often we want to be smart on something. We feel as if we have to have some big thing going on to validate having people come watch your channel. I don't care about that. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is a Bible-believing, we the people version of, I guess stuffy nose now. I don't know why I got stuffy nose. But we the people version, I guess you can say, of Bible believers. It's about all of us. And I'd like to see more of that out there. And I see these open mics, but they turn into just yelling and arguing. And the open mics seem to be they don't come on and go, hey, how are you? I just want to talk to you. Da-da-da. It's, hey, last week I watched a video on James 3, and I have some problems with that. That's the risk you have, I guess, open mic. And that's why if you see in my little thing there on the channel, I say, or the live stream right before you click on, I don't know if you guys see it or not, but it says basically, as usual, dignity and maturity. That's kind of what we should be using. And I've talked to Brother Jorge before about that. Of like, I wonder if I'll do one of those drop the links in type of thing and have a conversation and stuff like that. I think it's important. But I've said before, if you're in my area, I'll try to meet up and have a cup of coffee. Well, you can have the coffee. I'll have a glass of apple juice or something. I don't drink coffee. I know. We had this conversation last week. I know. Mr. Miami Cuban coffee over there and Brother Jorge, all on the coffee thing. I'm not a coffee guy. I'm sorry. But I'll have an apple juice or a 5-hour energy. But I would like to see that happen. And I'm not seeing. I just see people say it's a round table. I don't know. You guys can tell me what you see out there. What do you feel? What do you think I'm wrong that it doesn't exist out there, that it does exist, and I'm just not seeing it out there? Because I'm not seeing it out there. I'm not seeing it anywhere. No matter where I go, I'm just not seeing it. Or there'll be clickbait stuff, and you're like, oh, maybe this is going to be it, but it doesn't end up being it at all. Like, let's see. Yeah, like that Council Mike guy, what was it? He had dispensationalism is true. And then they got into some other stuff which didn't make any sense to me. Or I like this. I challenge a Muslim. To me, that's narcissism. I challenged a Muslim. I went after. I. Man, what about we, us? Or a conversation with. I think verbiage becomes an important thing of how you use your words. It's a shame. And I don't think that Dr. George guy, I got my own problems with just having doctor there, which is hilarious. Why do let's look at the word doctor for a second. You know how in Luke it says physician? Those who do need a physician and those who don't need a physician. Doctor was actually it's funny how we have doctors in hospitals, doctors of philosophy, which it was back then, was doctors with degrees. Physicians were people who came and healed and so forth. Edification is sorely lacking, if not totally missing online. I agree. And I think some people are afraid to come on because they, on not my channel, but on the people's channels, they're afraid that they have to come up with something intelligent or something smart or something witty so they can be all right. But it shouldn't be about that at all. And like Dr. George, somebody was talking about, you're a smart man, being a doctor. That actually turns me off. That I'm like, I could care less that you got a PhD in anything. I don't care. I don't. Which doctor? Yeah. But and we do get fooled by it. We still get fooled. Even understanding and knowing the history behind all the PhDs and this, that, and the other. I mean, let's see. Probably Eberhard Nessel. Let's just take that out. I wonder if it says he has his titles and credentials. Now, look at that. Dr. Eberhard Nessel. Oh, this one was revised in 1935 by Dr. Erwin Nessel. See? You have to have the word doctor in front of your name, or therefore you're not intelligent, or you have no clue. You're not smart. You're not intelligent at all. Sorry. I heard some horns honking out on the main road, which is really weird because nobody's there. Should be honest and from the heart. This fellowship is kind of like my church. Oh, that's very kind of you to say. But we kind of, I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Dr. Westcott and Hort. There you go. Same thing. It's like there are so many people who have things to say, and they don't know where to say it because they watch these channels. Yeah, actually, yeah. That does play into it, the pride thing. I do believe that. Yeah, absolutely. But there are good, godly people out there who horns were, the train passing by. Oh, okay. So apparently the trains were going off in the distance. Thank you. I lost my train of thought. I always do this. I'm awful. But, and that, I don't see just simple people just wanting to have a conversation on there because they seem like they have to. Well, how am I going to how can I talk with a Bible scholar or a doctor or guy who has a PhD? Oh, this guy's studying this and that. And I'm like, man, I'm not smart enough. Chances are you probably are smarter than them on some of them because they're so warped by their views or their learning of certain things from a certain perspective that they have no ability to communicate to the lowly common people. Like me, I'm not a doctorate or anything. I'm not that smart at all. I have very limited knowledge. Just because someone doesn't have a doctorate doesn't mean that they can't have some sort of intelligence. In fact, I feel that some people have more, like I said before, more intelligence than others that have no doctorate. I'm not including myself. I'm just saying. I'll tell you briefly about me. I'm a high school dropout. That's it. Well, it shows, Stephen. Good. I'm glad it does. I'm a high school dropout, man. All there is to it. Went and got my GED a year after I dropped out of high school. Went to get my GED. Got my GED. Aced that without a problem. Then I went to enroll in Worcester State College, which I think it's not a college anymore. I think it's a university. I think they call it a university now. But went there. Was going to get my degree in history and all that stupid stuff. And but I didn't. So there's a lot of people out there like that, though, that didn't complete. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't complete school. I'm just saying it happens. It certainly happens. I was not a good kid growing up, a very defiant, anti-everything. I don't know what I said. Well, anti, but I was very confrontational. I was ready to go. You want to dance, as the old saying goes. Let's dance. That was my approach. Not the best approach, but I was never one that fit in anywhere. It's funny. I fit in everywhere, but didn't fit in at all. I wanted nothing to do. Fit in with the jocks, could care less about them. Fit in with the different cliques, but didn't care about any of them. Fit in at school, but I wanted nothing to do with when I left school. It's almost like I wanted no interaction with them. That's how I lived, and I think it makes me. Personally, I think it makes me a better Christian born again Christian, because I have no desire to fit in. Wherever I fit in, I fit in. But the most important part is, again, is here. That's the only place I want to be. That's the only place where I want to fit in. That's it. And I love you guys, but I'm just saying, I'm not worried if we don't click and we don't fit in. I'm not trying to have a click. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal to me at all. I'm not concerned about those things. I saw his little old book on the. I'm sidetracked again. You know me now. I got that ADD. Trying to figure out what this is. Is that German? I think this is German. Anybody German here? Because Solmboken. I don't know. 1819. All right. Is that German or Swedish? I don't even know what that is. I'll have to look it up. Yeah. See, 1819. I don't know if you can see it. I'm telling you, it is fascinating the stuff you find, and it interests me all the time. Not that I'm trying to switch religions. It's just interesting that it exists out there. And getting the original copies of things, you can learn a lot of things. But you can learn all the same things that everybody else learns. You don't have to, I need it. It's a Swedish hymnal. So it's Swedish. Look at that. Sometimes I'm telling you, sometimes I buy these things, I get these things, and I forget about them, because I want to read them or look into them and study it or check it out. And I don't even speak Swedish. The Swedish, as I said, speak Swedish, speak Swede, Norwegian. I don't speak it at all, but it interests me. I'm curious. I've always been one who love. The Bible teaches us to be Bereans, right? Search the scriptures like the Bereans do. We have to search for ourselves and not just what everybody else says or just whatever somebody else tells us. That's what we're going to roll with. That's not the way we should go about doing that. I'll tell you, I have a book here that my wife says, should you buy this book? I says, why not? She goes, are you going to read this book? And I didn't lie to her on purpose. I said I would, and I still haven't. Hold on now. Ugh. The Complete Dead Sea Scrolls in English. I saw it. I had to have it. I probably spent too much on it. Not like thousands of it. I probably, I think it's on the back page. I think it was like $17 or something like that. Yeah, it was most likely like $17. It was at one of them little bookstores that usually write the amount on like one of the pages, but I don't see it in here. But yeah, I spent probably about maybe $17, $20 on it, which is a lot of money as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I know people always Acts 17. All right, Acts 17. Hold on. Acts 17. Let's get to Acts 17. All right, let's read it. Why are we going to Acts 17? What is the point you're trying to make, sir? I have a bookmarker in Acts 15. All right, Acts 17. Acts 17. Do I not have Acts 17? So this is just Paul preaching. All right, preaching out of Thessalonica and Athens. Oh, the Bereans. I don't know how I didn't think about that. But thanks for pulling up the scripture, Acts 17. I'll point that out. Thank you. And here's another one. Oh, where is it? This. It's not because I worship a Bible, but I would love to, somehow put this in a situation where it doesn't get destroyed, not because I love the ASV, but this is the American Standard Version, okay? But the interesting thing about this American Standard Version, it is falling apart in my hands. My goodness. This was gifted to somebody in 1930, it looks like. But I want you to understand, it's in 1901. And if you know about the ASV, the American Standard Version, well, you know the history of it. It came out in 1901. This is a 1901 American Standard Version, and it's falling apart everywhere. See, I like to protect that somehow because I think it's important to look at, like I said before, the originals of things. Forgot the exact verse. Oh man, well I just put the Bible back down. But always get the originals because history gets messed with. Even with biblical history, they change things, they take things out, they move it, they eliminate things. And I think I told you guys this before, and I wish my wife can remember. I don't know if she will remember or not, but there was a verse we were looking up in the parallel verses in Blue Letter Bible and the King James, and it didn't say the same thing the King James actually says. So that's why I get concerned when people just use only, like they'll only pull up on the screen in their videos the computer version of it. I'm not knocking anybody, but because even I would look at that, but somehow I had caught it one time, and that's what made me worrisome about things of that case. I'm trying to look for it. I don't know. I'm going to search through these verses. I hate to do that live stream, but it's important to have these original versions, I think, because you are able to go to them and say what it actually says. Now, I have not put the ASV 1901 and let's say a 2025 ASV next to each other to see if anything's been changed. And maybe nothing of those the ASV has, but and maybe that has. It depends. A lot of people read Catholics read the NRSV, and it's not even close to the Douay Rheims, so it's not even the same. So you have that happens quite frequently, unfortunately, and people fall for it, and they don't realize that they're not reading the same Bible at all. That's why when people say, "Oh, you're not reading the original King James," we've gotten into that. In fact, I'm almost done getting all the mark done for that next video. I only have so much time, and that takes a lot of time. Believe it or not, that takes more time than you think it does, going through them and counting all the words and so forth. But that'll come out hopefully next week at some point, because I work on two different things and just I can't keep up with what I do. See, what I do is I go through. You see, as I go through each, I have this notebook. I have the amount of words or in each, how many words in each verse, and I look at the verses of how the words, and I go through like unto is you, but it's a VNTO. So I keep going on that. Yeah. I believe you're correct on that. I don't have the strong concordance anymore. I got rid of that. I used to have a strong concordance a long time ago. And I think that was one of the books that I got rid of. I donated because I had to minimize the books. I have two large bookcases here. And what I used to have could have filled 4 to 5, I think, bookcases. But I kept on trying to whittle through things like, I don't know if I'll read this, or maybe I can buy it again one day, things of that nature. So I didn't keep that one. But there were things I did, like I have like Jonathan Edwards, some of his sermons. I kept that because I didn't think I could replace that. So just things that I thought that I could probably replace. But a lot of the Bible versions I kept, like the CEV and the St. John's Catholic Bible, the Catechism, the Catechism of the Council of Trent, and stuff, things of that nature. I just didn't think I could replace some of these things, so I kept them. But yeah, I probably got rid of a lot of stuff. I even have what's that Pope's name there? Ratzenberger. I have one of his books. I saw one of his books and I had to grab it. I had to. I never read it though. I never got around to it. I got it up, and I keep all my pagan and my Catholic stuff together up there. So, and then I go from there. I go into the new versions. So I go from the Catholicism, the Roman Catholic stuff, the pagan stuff, and the new versions. I keep those nice together over there. I got the New Age over here with stuff like that. But this is the Principles of Catholic Theology by Joseph Cardinal Ratzinger. Building stone for a fundamental theology. This guy was wicked. What a wicked man, this man. Now he wrote this in 1987, it looks like. Oh, the original one was in German in 1982, and the American version was in 1987. But notice, we were just talking about something earlier, the pride issue. This was actually translated by a sister, by the way, Sister Mary Frances, SND. They all have those things, SND and THI, and all those things are TMI. Too much information. I don't need to worry about all that kind of nonsense. Yeah, Ratzenberger. Yeah, that's close enough to me. He's a rat. That's all he is. And but yeah, I think some knowledge is important depending on what you're using that knowledge for, what you may think you need that knowledge for. What are you going to use it for? Are you using it so you can have a conversation with other people, or you're trying to witness to people? And having, I think it can be handy to have an understanding. But if you're just like, oh, I just want to learn about the religions just to learn about the religion, I don't know. Yes, I am aware of that. I am aware that he is. The irony. Who was it? But Hitler and the Nazis and Roman Catholicism really go well together, don't they? I'm not even going to get into the whole argument of, you can't prove Hitler was a Catholic, blah blah blah. The most friendliest people in the world to them was the Roman Catholics. I think Himmler was an actual Roman Catholic. He wanted to go and then wanted to be pagan ancestries or whatever. But think about this. Where did they escape to? A Catholic country that was predominantly Roman Catholic. The state religion was Catholic. In fact, where they went were a lot of slaves too. I mean, you have to look at these things. Brazil, Venezuela, Brazil really. But all these places were Roman Catholic. Founded by Roman Catholics. When they went down to Nigeria and Africa and got all those slaves, and they brought them over where? Over to South America, where Roman Catholics dominated the area. They're the most dominant religion during the slave trade. Interesting. Now, the Pope at that time never denounced Hitler. They said, he worked behind the scenes. Never denounced Hitler at all, which he should have. Yes. Yeah, in certain areas they did. Yep, that is true. That is true. And I've said this before. There's different areas of different slavery in different places. Africans enslaved Africans, Indians enslaved Indians. I'm talking about here in America, Native Americans. They can't be Native Americans because the term American wasn't there when they were here previously. Before that, so indigenous people, whatever you want to go with that. But they enslaved each other too, conquered each other. But the whole modern idea, the modern version of the slave trade, the Atlantic slave trade, was really perpetuated or promulgated by the Roman Catholic Church. And with Portugal in 1257, some of you probably already watched that podcast on my other podcast channel, but I talked about that. We'll be talking about Vietnam next. We're going to be going. I think we're going to be getting into that as well. But Portugal, when they got it run by King Dennis the First in 1257, I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1257, and they were the ones that first get out foreigners down to Africa and on the Nigerian coast side along there. And they were trading with them. They didn't go in, by the way, and take. They did not go and take. They traded. They were given. They were bought. They bought slaves, and then they were bringing them over to South America. That's where the slave trade was going. In America, it was almost accidental, the start of it, because as I pointed out in that podcast with it's a Catholic ship, Catholic pirate who attacked a Catholic ship, by the way, to raid those African slaves and brought them up to Virginia, into that area. And the first slaves that were kind of slaves but weren't was in the 1500s by another Catholic that was sent over by a cardinal into that area. So Roman Catholicism has always been behind these things. How we got into this conversation, I don't know, but that's where it goes. My first relation that came to the New World in 1723 was an indentured servant, aka slave. And by the way, how you would classify indentured servants in different areas were different. Look at all. Nobody's mad about the Mexican slaves that are coming over the border that are mules or have to pay all that money to the gangs that they paid to get them over to America. Are they not slaves? I guess that's not a big deal. So Democrats are for slaves. They've always been for slaves, and they always will be for slaves. And I'm not ruling out Republicans as well. Listen, you talk about the H-1B visa situation, which gives the visa to certain areas, certain people to come work and so forth. I don't know. We'll say, yeah, Democrats were involved with that. But so were Republicans. They voted for the bill as well. So Bill Clinton, George Bush, Harry Truman. Actually, Harry Truman vetoed, even though he's a Democrat, he vetoed the original immigration policy one, but Congress overrode him. When Congress voted for that, they overrode Harry Truman to put the immigration policy into effect. And again, we can't just blame Democrats only for the immigration policy because it was voted by both Republicans and Democrats. In fact, I think it passed by majority of Republicans over Democrats in the House, but it was more Democrats on the Senate side or something like that. I'd have to relook at my information. He signed on for 7 years an actual contract that he had to work up. This is legit, man. You really got a family member who worked off his indentured. That's amazing. And they have these contracts. I've not known of any. I don't have any family members. So for me, my family members arrived in this country after the Civil War was over. So my on my mother's side, I think I mentioned this before. My mother's side, they were Finnish, and the Russians were coming in and attacking Finland at that time, and so my ancestors were being persecuted by the Russians in Finland, and that's when they came here. My grandfather, my Pepe, he came from Canada, so he came over from Canada. My father was the first one born here in America. My mother was the first born here in America out of her family, so we haven't been here that long, so I ain't paying no reparations. Let me tell you that right now. That's. I don't want to use the word cool. That's cool that he signed it, but it's amazing history. Now, my wife's mother. I think on my wife's mother's side, they were on one of the Mayflower or one of the boat. I forget which one. But her father was in Italy. He was from Italy. He was there. He lived in Italy. He was a kid during World War II in Italy. So that's. I was just gonna say that a color or an animal. That's about it. I mean, there were points in time that there were differences, but at the end of the day, there's not. Remember, I hate to break this to people, but Ronald Reagan is the one who brought the Pope here. I'm just saying. I mean, Say what you will, but a fact is a fact. You can't ignore the fact. So the scariest thing to me, you know, when I realized, or not realized, but recently how you knew that the Catholic Church owns this country, not China, was when that woman, there was during Trump's, not inauguration, but I don't know what you want to call it, but there was a woman up on the balcony, singing. And I want to say it was Ave Maria. I could be wrong, but she was singing something. It was a Catholic song. And that had to be an absolute warning or a red flag that not only the Catholics have been trying to take over the White House since the Confederacy, but yeah, they're here. They own it. If you look at everything and the backing of everything, there's always Catholics behind it. Or not, sometimes there's Episcopalians and stuff like that. But yes, sir, 1981. Yeah, there you go. 1981. And I will even let's cut Ronald Reagan a break for a second. Let's just assume we had no idea of the magnitude. And I think some of these people don't know the magnitude of what they're doing. They're just, they've been told that their advisors that they should do it. I forget the guy who had a conversation. I know Billy Graham. Billy Graham was one that also spoke to Ronald Reagan and suggested bringing the Pope. And I don't have to get you into Billy Graham. You all know, Brother Calvin. I know you know the history of Billy Graham and all that craziness, but that's how the Pope got here, and some other advisors in his cabinet that happen to be Catholics. They've been trying to get here for a long time. They conquered South America. They conquered Central America. They wanted the United States, North America. They wanted it. They tried hard. They tried with the North, couldn't get it, so they had the South. And again, you got to remember, it's a flip here. A lot of people always call us the Bible Belt, right down here. I'm in Tennessee, and so the Bible Belt. What you don't realize is there's more Catholics down here than there were Baptists. We always think Baptists for the South. Well, Baptists started in the North. The Catholics started in the South. I mean, there were Catholics up there too, but I'm just saying, and then they switched. And then suddenly Baptists are in the South, Catholics are in the North. These are the facts of the matter. You can go back. I mean, I told you before, Jefferson Davis was a Roman Catholic. All these wars are fought in the name of religion or for religion or the control of religion. And who are the religions that are always fighting in these wars or promulgating these wars? Or you find out that are behind a lot of these wars or associated wars, who they fight for is Islam and the Roman Catholic Church. Do you see a lot of Baptists going, hey, war? No. Now, a lot of Baptists down here definitely have a Trump flag and they have guns toting. I'm not saying you can't have a gun. I'm not saying that. I'm not against guns at all. But that's where we're at. And that's the greatest awesome trick that the devil has. The people are so stupid. That's mean. I shouldn't say that. I apologize. I shouldn't call anybody stupid. But it's the old, switch, bait and switch. They don't realize what was there because nobody wants to study history. Nobody wants to learn history. It's too time consuming. And by the way, it is time consuming. But we forget. Not only do we forget about fellowship and what the basic idea of fellowship is, and not forsaking the assembly of others. When I meet another Christian somewhere, I did not forsake. Yes, many, if not most, do not realize that Davis received a letter from the Pope stating they were on the South. Now, that letter that you speak of, yes, that was very much used during that campaign but it can be ambiguous. I will say that. But yeah, if I was to read between the lines or to assume, yes, even though they said Pope, they never, but they didn't denounce the Confederacy either. And Jefferson Davis went off to study, I think, or his uncle sent him off to study at some Dominican school, or friars or whatever, some Catholics. Even though his father supposedly was Baptist, they were Baptist, but then he was sent to a Catholic school. So you can imagine what he learned in that Catholic school. And then never mind, what's the Charles Chiniquy up in Chicago, the Lincoln, when Lincoln was his representative at court against the Catholic Church up there. Catholics have more scandals than anyone else. The people will defend the Catholic Church and say, "Oh, okay, that one guy was bad. Okay, that Pope was wrong. Okay, I got you." But for the most part, and then well, what about this one? Okay, that one was bad too. But you're only picking out a couple, and you name off okay, yeah, that one too. But they do more defending of the evil background. It's amazing. And I think basically because they don't know. I think that's the problem. The Roman Catholic Church has wanted this country more than any other country in history. They wanted this country. I'm not worried about an invasion of China. That's not going to happen anytime soon. First of all, I would have to say China has already invaded us anyways by our pharmaceuticals. So you don't have to worry about that. That ship has sailed. It's like I'm down here. I tell people down here in Tennessee, what's that lady's name down here? Marsha Blackburn. So she was running a campaign ad on her last election. Sorry, I'm cleaning my glasses. Her last election, she was about China and fighting China. I'm thinking, China? You can't even defend. You can't even get rid of the gangs out here. Yes. Charles Chiniquy was more well-known than Lincoln at that time in history. Yeah, I have the I had his book. I thought I had Charles Chiniquy. Oh, my son has it. I have we have 4 sons. We have 4 boys. But my 21-year-old son has it. He wanted to read about it, so I let him borrow it. So he has that one. But yeah, that was a pretty good book, actually. But then you look in the background and you see who was involved, and it's been ongoing. I don't know how we got into this, but there's always been religious men, so to speak, who have used the Bible, and that's it goes back to what I said before. We have these supposed godly religious men holding up that King James Bible, the Bible that I love, and they are absolutely desecrating it by their actions. I don't care what your words are. Brother Jorge spoke of it earlier. I was going to try to go back and find his exact quote. There you go. Matthew 15:8. The people draw nigh unto me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. And that is exactly true. They do a lot of... Oh, now I can't seem to... There we go. And that's what happens. And religion has done that for a long time. I'm not religious, obviously. It's weird that it used to be a time when you could call yourself a Christian. I'm old enough to know, I'm not super old. I'm in my 50s, but I guess I am super old nowadays. Past middle age. If you think about it, right? If the average death is 77 or something like that, that's the average age. So at 35, that would mean you're middle age at that point. So I'm past middle age. So it's kind of funny to think about that in a weird aspect. So I guess those guys who think they're elders at 30, 35, they go, see, I'm going by the age of 77. But there used to be a time when said you're Christian, it actually meant something meant you were a Christian. You were a Bible believing Christian. Then you had to say you were a born again Christian. And then that didn't cut it. Then you had to differentiate you because now people call themselves born again Christians when they're not. You got abomination homosexuals out there that call themselves Christians and born again Christians, but they're not. And yet now we're at the point where now we're Bible believing Christians, sola scriptura. You know, it's getting worse and worse, and that's obviously how you know that we're getting, in my opinion, closer and closer to the end. You know, I've often said we're at supper time in the last days. You know, and that's my opinion. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I've said, and Brother Jorge and I were talking about this a while ago, and I wish I made a video, and I thought I did, but years ago I had talked about this, that 2027, I've always felt 2027 was going to be one of the worst years we're ever going to see, one of the craziest years we're ever going to see. And then in the last year or so, I'm seeing people say the same thing, 2027, 2027. I'm like, well, there you go. So I guess I'm not the only one who thinks 2027, but I've been saying that for a long, long time. It's something, you know, that I see coming. I'm not saying that that's the catching away. I'm just saying that that's going to be a change. And so for my family and I, we try to prepare for that. I want to touch upon that, and I forgot to touch upon that early in the evening because that's been on my mind. I often forget how blessed I am, my family is, because we are in a better situation than many people are, and we forget that. We forget that there are a lot of people. I talk about canning, and well, I don't can. My wife does the canning, but prepping for the future and prepping for things that are going to happen, and I mean not Armageddon or zombies and all that nonsense. Not Armageddon being nonsense, but zombies being nonsense. But there are people who can't. And I think it behooves us that if we do see godly people, born again Christians out there who are struggling, they probably won't take help. We have to figure out how we're going to help one another out. There's too many people, these so-called Christians, are preparing for themselves and nobody else. I think Brother Jorge and I were talking about that the other day, of how we are incredibly blessed to be where we are. Now, yes, we went through a lot of struggles in our life to get here. I don't mean me and Jorge. I'm sure Brother Jorge has, but my wife and I, in separate ways of getting here, we've had struggles. We've eaten ramen noodles, so to speak, in life, and heartaches, tragic situations, and we all have. I'm not saying we're any different than anybody else, but we have a couple of acres now, and this is the most I've ever had. So, but there are people who don't have that, and we have to be ready, because I think we have to help people that are going to need it. Philippians 4:11, not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. And I struggle with the contentness because I'm like, okay, we got to make sure, but we forget sometimes that, yes, we have to have faith. We have to trust God. He's going to see us through. And I think those of us who have means, now I'm not saying I'm rich at all. I'm not even close to that. But some of us have more than others. And I'm hoping and I pray that we don't fail to help those that are going to need it. There are going to be fellow brothers and sisters who are not able to do so. And then those, you know, there's I'm thinking about one woman. She's a single mother. I believe she's a single mother. And I could be wrong. And she's in Chicago or in Illinois somewhere. And she was spurned by a King James Bible believing Christian because she's a sinner. because she's not married. She has children. And she's got to make ends meet. She's a born-again Christian young lady. And how is she going to do so? And I hope there's a network that's going to be there to help. I don't know that will help her. Not that I don't want to help her. I haven't talked to her in a long, long time. My wife hasn't talked to her in a long, long time. There are people who aren't prepared. Some have very little. But I think God's going to sustain them. And I think God will use some of us who can. And we should. And I don't mean that just talk, because there's a bunch of skippies out there that do a lot of talking on YouTube, but you won't see them. And there's a lot more secular people helping each other than I see born-again Christians helping each other. And that's a disgusting shame. And it's deplorable. And I hope that we'll be there, that we'll be in a situation. I hope and pray that we'll be able to give where we need to give. And I don't mean tithing and offerings to your local church or anything like that. I don't mean that. Although that, depending on if you do go to a very small church that is actually biblically founded, then awesome. Because I've personally been thinking about this week and what I do and talking to another brother about how we prepare and stuff like that. And it dawned on me that I wish I could remember the text that I sent and what I said. I'll probably pull it up later. But we need to pay attention to what is important. We get wrapped up in certain things that we think we need to prep and so forth. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, but there are going to be those who don't have, and we better not turn our backs on brethren, real brothers and sisters that maybe couldn't have prepared like others could. If we've been given a blessing, then we need to help out instead of taking. There are guys on these YouTube channels that get a lot of offerings and donations, and they buy things with it, but they are not there. I guarantee you they're not doling out. And if you're giving to a ministry and you can barely feed your family, stop giving to that ministry. That ministry should be free. That ministry should be free. You shouldn't offer anything. You shouldn't donate it if you don't need to. And when they are begging for that money and they are looking for that money, they are scum. I just name called. But they're deplorable. They're awful. And I don't think they're Christians. And if they were, they probably fell away. And I just got really a little anger there, but I apologize for that. But I'm telling you, these people are not going to be there. They're not going to be there, unfortunately. All these people fighting online and stuff like that and all this infight, they're not going to be there for you. You try. I shouldn't speak for everybody, but that's my side note on that I've been thinking about this week, that I hope that that will be there for those who need it. Because I know that one point, and I'm not saying this to bring up some bragocious thing that we did, but what we did for a little while, my boys and I, we'd go to the grocery store. We'd buy, I did everything in sevens. It was just a thing we did in sevens. But we'd buy 7 cans of tuna, 7 cans of like diced up ham, 7 cans of chicken. And then we would buy like crackers and stuff like that. And then we threw a couple gospel tracts in there. But we got the pull-up cans, the ones that pull. We put gospel tracts and how to be saved and stuff in the Ziploc bags. And we would put them into what they call what do they call those things now? But the blessing boxes. And we would put them in different blessing boxes. So we would go to each one of them. So each week we would buy as many as we could get that we could afford, and then we would put them in different areas. We'd pick different blessing boxes throughout the different towns around us, and we put gospel tracts inside the Ziploc bag with the food in it, and little forks and stuff in there, or spoons, so they could eat if need be out of the can. And someone will say, "Well, you're just helping some jerk who doesn't care, doesn't have a job," and you're probably right. I would guess that's 99% of the time, but I still hope and believe that and pray that it might reach that one person. And no, I didn't put my YouTube channel on it or anything like that. And I might have on a couple. My wife might have wrote it, but For the majority of them, I did not, because it's not about bringing them to to my YouTube channel. The point is for them to read that gospel track and the little booklets that say how to be saved, and that was more important than anything else. Because we have a lot of Catholic charities, Baptist charities, Methodist charities, all these things. They don't bring the gospel. They're not trying to save them. They feed them a meal and, hey, God bless, have a great day. They don't bring the real sustenance that they need. But that's what I got to say about that. I'm noticing we're 2.5 hours in. I should probably wrap it up pretty quickly. Some of us work all day and are probably exhausted. I know Brother Jorge gets up earlier than I do. I'm usually up around 6:30 or so before I head out to work. Sometimes I hit that snooze button. But listen, we need to be prepared and ready for things. And we did go off track on a few things, but I don't care. What I say before, we'll just let it go where it goes, wherever it goes. Because it's called fellowship. And I don't know if Brother Christopher is still here, but I am really happy. I'm happy that all of you were here, but I'm happy Brother Christopher was here this evening. I'm excited that we got to hear from him, and we'll keep praying for his recovery as fast as possible. We hope that goes quick. But the rest of everybody else, thank you. And I mean that. Hey, he is here. He's still here. He's still here. Still cooking. I'm glad your everything went well as we know so far. So that's awesome, and I'm glad that you will be able to be here tonight. But with that, I'm thankful, and I know I say that all the time. I'm thankful, I'm grateful, but I really am. I am thankful, and I am grateful all the time that this happens, that y'all are here, and I appreciate that. So, but I am going to sign off. I'm going to do the awkward sign out on the end stream because it is 10:30 at night, and well, I'm tired. I got stuff to do, and I work. I'm not the only one who works all day, but we work all day, and then I do this, and I don't gotta do this. That was the wrong way of saying it. I love doing this, and I enjoy it, and I think I'm supposed to. So, a calling, so to speak. So, with that, thank you everybody, and I appreciate it. And if I don't talk to you during the week at all, or if I don't hear from you or email you or whatever, we don't talk. I will definitely see you. I hope to see you next Friday. With that, God bless and have a wonderful and beautiful evening. Thank you.